Welcome back. In this video, we're going to go through the job post page. So if I just navigate to the job post page over here, you'll be able to see that we inside of Webflow have just defined a skeletal structure. And that's because we're going to add the dynamic information to this page inside of Wized. Firstly, for this page, we have a few things to note. We have a button over here that essentially allows a candidate that is on a free plan to update to a premium plan. So we have the attribute of data MS price update, and that is tied to the premium plan inside of Memberstack. This button will only show for candidates that are not on a paid plan. And then we have another button over here, and that is to open up the application form modal. So once that's clicked, you'll see the application form modal over here. On this page, we have, if we just expand that page, we have a memberscript 38 for the form file uploader. You can learn more about this memberscript by going to Memberstack's page for memberscripts and then memberscript 38. So you can learn more about how that works. And that's just to allow a user, just go back here. That's just to allow a user to upload their resume over here and that's going to be required in order to submit this form. Okay, going back to the job post application or the job post page. We have a few elements that we've defined on this page. So for the job name, we just gave it an attribute of Wized job post name, and that's the same for most of the elements. So here we have job post type, job post location, and then job post date. This is the full description, and then the pay range. And then this button goes back to all of the jobs. Going back to Wized, I was already on the page. If I just go to all of my jobs and I click on UI designer, for example, what I will see is information specific to that job post. Okay, so to set this page up, the first thing we're going to do is to create a request to load an individual job. And the request is load job post. What we're going to tell Airtable to do is to go into job post and then get the record that is equal to the parameter that we've defined in the previous video. And just to reiterate on that, so every time a user clicks this button, the apply button, and just to show you over here, we set up a parameter to essentially take the job ID to the next page, and the next page being the candidate job post page. And that will give or store our Airtable ID. So when I click on this button, and then I go to the parameters over here, you'll be able to see that the job ID has been defined. Now we can use that job ID to essentially be a filter to only show, going back to the request, to only show the item or the job post that is equal to that particular ID. And that is very important because that allows us to filter on this page. Okay, so we created the request and now we need to create a trigger for that request. And the trigger will be load the individual job. So the trigger is pretty simple. When this page loads, perform the request, which will be load job post. Okay, and now for this page, we can set up all of the dynamic information. We have job post name. And for job post name, it will be plain text. And now we use the request that we've defined, which is load job post. If I just close all of these and open that request, we do not have a variable defined here because we're just loading a static job. So one individual job. So this is plain and simple. We just reference the job post name because we're only getting back one record. And then for all the others, it's again the same, plain text, job post type. And then this is location. The date, again, we reformatted it to be a little bit more legible for a user. And then we have the description. So the description inside of Airtable is stored as, just go over here. All the job post descriptions inside of Airtable are stored like this. and this is rich text. Obviously, this is not legible for a user when it's set up like this. So what we do inside of Wized, instead of setting it as plain text, because that will give us this format, we will set it up as HTML, and that will give us the rich text format for that particular section. Again, it's set to the request, data, fields, the long description. And then we have the pay range. Again, plain text, pay range. And that's it. Okay, so now on this page, we have a modal over here that allows a user to apply to a particular job. Inside of Webflow, there are a few elements that will help make this application form work. Firstly, if we just go all the way down and then we open up the application modal over here, we have a few things within this element. Firstly, we have the applicant member ID code embed. If we just expand that, that will essentially place the Memberstack's member ID in this form. So we need to know which member submitted this form. And then at the very bottom, we have another code embed over here that essentially adds the job ID. So we also need to know what job is being submitted, or what job a candidate is applying to. And all of this is necessary because we are now going to set up a webhook inside of Make to send that job application to Airtable. Okay, and you can also see that all the way down here, we set up a webhook to take this form when it's submitted to Make, and then Make will take it to Airtable. So just going back to Make over here, if I go back to scenarios, and then I go to candidate submits an application. So when a candidate submits an application, we want the application to essentially go to Make first. So there's a webhook set up to capture that application, and then that webhook gives a response to that particular user. So we just redirect them to candidate jobs. And you can set up this redirect to be anything else that you want. That's not going to break the template, but do make sure that it's formatted in this structure. Okay, the next things happening for this scenario is since that form has been submitted, so if I just go and submit that form over here, so if I want to apply to a job, I click apply, and then I see all of my dynamic information for that job. Then I click the apply button. So if I just add in dummy information over here, and then I then add a dummy document over here. So say this blank PDF, and then I submit it. Firstly, let me run this request to show you how this was going to look like. And then that is submitted, right? What Make is going to do is to capture that job, and then you can also see the information that has been retrieved. Okay, so this member ID comes from the code embed that we've defined. This job ID is also from the code embed that we've defined. And the little script inside of that code embed over here, this one, essentially takes the job ID from the parameter. So it captures the job ID from this parameter. So this job ID. Okay. Going back inside of Make, we also have the file that we've uploaded over here. Yeah, the file that we've uploaded over here. And that's for the third modal. So for this modal, what we do is, please firstly set up your own Google connection. So just click on add, and then you'll be able to set up your Google Drive connection. And then also you're going to have to change the folder ID to where you'd want all of the applications to go into. So all of the CVs that I've uploaded to go into. So you're first going to have to change this connection to yours and then capture the folder ID over here. And then this is going to be set up for the file name from the webhook. So this file name, and then this file is going to be the data over here. The next modal is so that we get a share link. So again, set up your connection, those you can leave as is. And then we then get the Memberstack member. And this is where the member ID that we've defined over here comes in handy. We get the member first, and then we create a record inside of Airtable, inside the job applications. So all of the information from the webhook, and then we take the resume URL that we've defined at the Google Drive section, then the applicant ID, and then the Memberstack ID, and then the job ID. And all of these are necessary for when we send the job application to a particular recruiter. Okay, so we've created the job. And then now again, we have to get a particular record from the job posts. So we created a job first in the job applications. So then we get the job posts for that particular job that was applied to, so that we can set up an email sequence. The first modal that you see over here, if I just expand it, sends an email to the candidate that applied for that job. So we get the candidate's email, the job name that was submitted or applied to, and then just some text. So this you can customize as you see fit. And then again, we get another record from Airtable, and that is the recruiter, so that we can send the recruiter a notification as well. And then now we set that up, the last modal, to send a message to the recruiter to let them know that someone has applied to their job. Once that's done, you save that scenario, you set it as immediate, and then you are done. And that's it. You have now set up the job post page and given a user the ability to apply to a particular job. In the next video, we're going to touch on the last few pages, which will be the profile settings as well as the user's settings page. And then we're going to touch on the inbox for Talk.js and how that is set up. All right, see you in the next one. Bye.